Okay, it's our last chapter, chapter 16. This is not a very long chapter, and I'm not going to leave you with a really long lecture. This chapter really just kind of brings back everything we have talked about and just kind of highlights some things when we're thinking about sports in the future. My hope for you as you end this class, and that's part of the group project, is you can start thinking about how you can be an active person of change. So how can you be an agent of change? What things in your life can you start doing to help not only change sports, okay, because that's the focus of our class, or the things that sports are doing well, things that it could do better, but how does that affect society then? So if we start changing stuff gender-wise in sports, race-wise in sports, that will affect our society. The chapter will talk about thinking about the future. What will sports look like? Will the definition change? Will the expectations change? Models for thinking about the future, about power and performance sports. Will they still happen in schools? The popularity will depend on all of us. But understanding that kind of participation in sports and participation will grow. More and more people want to continue to stay active. More and more people want to be in sports, but maybe don't want it to be such an intense commitment. So you're going to see people start doing sports purely to stay fit, to interact with others and stay social. They're going to value just having the experience. So, what will those two dynamics look like? So current trends right now, right, factors in the growth of power and performance sports is that the people with the money are, influencing power and performance sports. They are easy to market and sell. They are exciting, right? I mean, right now, whether you like women's soccer or soccer in general at all, it's exciting. Like, everybody's talking about it. Those were some exciting games if you watched it. So they're easy to sell. It's easy for people to watch. Again, pleasure and participation are going to be easy to sell because people are worried about their health, especially in the United States. We're still, have a very high obese rate, diabetes. There's all sorts of issues that we are dealing with. Current values and experiences of girls and women, we're trying to get them more involved. And then we're just, we're seeking alternative means of just being able to be in sports without having such a high commit. There's going to show some different pictures here, and we talked about it in all the different chapters of all the different ways, different ages, all the way from very young to very old, and how they're able to participate. You're also going to start seeing families, and as some of you probably grew up participating in sports, and simply as like, we go for long bike rides, or we do this as a family. So you're going to see that. You're going to see more men and women playing together. Someday when you get a job and you're out in the real world, especially in your early 20s and things, like, it's fun. You go and play like co-ed softball, co-ed, out volleyball. There's all sorts of things going on. And you're going to see that happening more and more where men and women are playing together. Golf, tennis, all of that good stuff. You're going to start to see athletes with disabilities participate more in sports. And we already are. We talked about that in chapter 10. Like, even though there's so much more room for improvement, you're already seeing athletes participate more. There's going to be more participation in kind of those danger sports or action extreme sports, whatever you want to call them. And, some of them you're already doing. So, right, like they're the Tough Mudders, or, these kind of races that occur. I just did this like big like relay race with my friends where we ran like 76 miles, across the state of Iowa. Well, not across the state of Iowa, but from a place in Iowa to another location was 76 miles, and it was a relay. So I ended up running like 12 total miles. Like, so you're going to see more things like that. You're going to see some alternative sports, and, the PowerPoint has a picture of Frisbee golf, and there's all sorts of different games like that, and bags, and, bocce ball, and all that kind of good stuff. You're going to see, a lot of people are into hiking, and, all of that kind of, is that a sport? We didn't even talk about that much this semester, but getting involved with nature, getting outside, walking. There's going to be other alternatives, and there's a list of all the different type of games, okay, that happen each year. There's also going to be, just more information that is available for you all and for you to see things. So, for example, like this week, If you haven't heard, the tennis is going on, and there's this like 15-year-old phenom who's like beating everyone. She's the youngest person, and she beat one of the Williams sister. Like, she's so good. If you haven't seen it, look it up. Becoming an agent of change, these are the last couple slides on here. Like, how do you become an agent of change? And there's a couple different ways. There's the conservative goal of growth, meaning that based on the beliefs that sports should expand and become more efficient in their current form. So you may have more of a conservative look on sports and saying like, listen, they're good and they need to get better, but they're in a good place. So let's just kind of fine tune it a little bit. And then you emphasize management issues and performances. You have the reformance kind of mentality, which is improvements. So based on the belief that sports positive participation opportunities should increase. So like more people should have access to it. Emphasize inclusion, equality, and fairness. So this is more like everybody should do it. Everyone should try it. And it's more of a social thing. You could have a more radical, like we should totally change sports, okay? Structurally, there's a lot of flaws. My hope would be in your group presentation, you are talking about these, okay? So if you're saying, hey, I want to change race and I have a real transformational mentality, that's where I need to see this stuff. So hopefully you're watching this PowerPoint so you can make that. Vantage points for making change, work on a better system of sports, okay? You got to become an insider. I would say I'm somebody who's trying to become an insider. I'm a head coach. I work at a really great athletic department, but you got to get inside. You have to join groups and be an active participant in trying to make change. Create new and alternative sports, and you got to work outside of sports. You got to work with other people, so that you can continue to make an impact, not just on athletics, but everything else. This slide's here, Quidditch. If you haven't heard of it, Middlebury College actually is the one it's a Division III school and made it. It's you all that are Harry Potter fans. There's essentially a game, you all know it, but they play it now. Pokemon on the Go was huge a couple years ago. Like, people were crazy about it. Maybe some of you did it. I mean, I remember going to Des Moines one afternoon and there was just people all downtown on their phones playing it. So there's just now whether you consider that a sport or not, that's a whole different day and a different discussion, but there's different ways to interact with the people and be active. That was everyone's biggest thing with Pokemon. Like, you're out walking around. Tough Mudders, which we've already talked about. Regardless of what kind of view you're going to take, being an effective agent of change requires you to do these three things, okay? You have to have a vision of what sports and sports social life could and should be like. You can't sell yourself short, okay? You have to have a willingness to work on strategies and need to turn visions into reality. So you need to come up with a plan. And then political abilities to rally the resources. So you also have to have, again, kind of some of that insider track. Transforming sports is a challenging task, and it's not going to be easy. It's not easy on me. There are certain things that I'm currently working on that for 8 years as a head coach at Wartburg, and it's not something within Wartburg, it's outside of Wartburg. It has to do with just some things that we deal with as female head coaches on the field. We're treated a little bit different at times than my male counterparts. And the resistance I have gotten is insane. It's been very much a challenge for me in the sense that I don't have a lot of allies that essentially believe me, who think that there is a problem, and it's been difficult. If you continue on down here, the future is rather bright, and we can't predict everything. So if you are passionate about change in any way, and some of you are taking this class to kind of fulfill a requirement, and you don't have a lot of interest in sports, and that's okay. My hope would be is that as you leave this class, you have learned that our society as a whole, we still have some issues, and we need to be participants in changing those issues. My hope is that you kind of opened your eyes a little bit, that things aren't perfect yet, that we're not in a good place, and that, sports is a real mirror of society, and society mirrors sports. So if something's going on in sports, I'm telling you right now, it's happening in society, and vice versa. If it's happening in society, it's going on in sports, and how closely they are linked. I love this class. I love the opportunity to teach all of you. I hope you were able to get some good things out of this course. If you need anything, please let me know. Also understand that, grades, I don't get to turn your final grade in until like August 1st is when they're due. So, if something